Hi again, I'm Jim Healy at Rooted in Love. Braver Angels is an organization that tries to help people across the political spectrum talk to each other with civility, respect, and maybe even kindness. Well, I've been through their workshops and some of their training, and it seemed to me that the skills that they teach for political conversations could really help too with domestic conversations between husbands and wives. So let me just share two skills that they talk about. The first one is a listening skill. In a political situation, sometimes when the other person says something that you just can't buy or just don't understand at all, you're tempted to say something like that. But another approach would be to say, you obviously feel strongly about this. What is it that you've experienced that brings you to that conclusion? What brought you there? And sometimes we find then that you may find that you share a value, even if you come to different conclusions, or maybe part of the answer you share. Well, at the domestic scene, husbands and wives come up with the same situation where you might feel the other person, you just can't understand why they came to that conclusion. Instead of saying that's ridiculous or whatever, to get behind the stance, to the story, to ask a question like, honey, that sounds like you really, feel strongly about that. What brought you to that conclusion? What have you experienced that made you feel that way? It can be really helpful. So here's a speaking skill also. Sometimes in political situations we're tempted to just throw what are called reality statements or truth statements at each other instead of perception statements. So a truth statement is, this is the way it is, period. And the other person says, no, this is the way it is. And it's hard to get past that. Well, one way to help is to put the front end of that comment into play. And that is something like, well, my perception is this, or, based on what I've read, I believe that, or the people I've talked to make me think that this is the reality. And that often calls forth something different from the other person. Well, same thing between husbands and wives. It's very helpful to say something like, well, honey, this is where I'm coming from on this, or maybe even something like, I could be wrong, but really, this is what I feel right now. Really helpful. Now, I started thinking about this last Saturday, and I want to just read a little bit of the lectionary reading from that day. It's a reading from Isaiah. If you remove from your midst oppression, false accusation, and malicious speech, if you bestow your bread on the hungry and satisfy the afflicted, repairer of the breach, they shall call you, restorer of ruined homesteads. So, let's do what we can to restore the ruined homesteads, whether it's either the national scene or the domestic one. God bless you, and please consider subscribing to this channel by hitting that button and ringing that bell.